Greetings! Welcome to the devlog for Alpha 3 of Update 97 of Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure your speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So what have we got for you this week? Well, we have got some continued work on the sort of remaster of this scene. You can see that the colors are a little more naturalistic. I don't know what was going through my head last week. Things were a little too bleached. I will blame it on living in Los Angeles and just having it always be so bright here, and not just the fact that I just wasn't paying sufficient attention to anything that wasn't the trees. But to go with that, I have added something that's been long requested, which is a new option in our quality options here under performance and quality called custom, that will allow you to dial in and tweak your basically a desired custom configuration, especially for scenes that are pretty expensive, whether that's Rotwieners or this one because of all of the trees. Will allow you to, the scene that you use the most, really sort of dial in and get the performance profile you want. It's not 100% done yet. There's some back-end stuff that I need to finish tweaking, but let's take a look at it. So if I turn on custom here, it's going to default to everything being just about as low as things can be turned down here. But let's go over our various options. You'll notice when I hit custom, all of this extra stuff appears. The first one obviously is turning on real-time shadows. So I'm going to turn that on, and there's a number of other options here that are related to shadows. The first one is basically our real-time shadow resolution, which for some reason is not working. I noticed this just before I went to film. I am actually changing this setting. Is weird. I don't know if this is a Unity engine bug or something like that. But it is, it's faulting. Hopefully I can get it figured out before it's time to push the build, and if not, I will fix it later. The distance, however, does work, and as we can see here, we can push it all the way out to 320, pull it back to 160, 80, 40. We can tweak MSAA independently. This has been requested for a while, both because I think there's some fancy NVIDIA DLSS thing that you can engage when MSAA is disabled, I think. But this is here, so we can turn this, I don't know, let's get something that might look kind of jaggy on screen. Let's see here. Actually, no, I think it's actually looking at the controller geo. We can see, yeah, the big difference in that, like, top ring there. Just remember, 8x MSAA is, like, preposterously expensive and memory intensive and should, generally speaking, never be engaged. You actually get most of the benefit just going up to 2x MSAA, at least on a higher resolution HMD. You can turn texture filtering on and off, which largely has the effect of changing how things look at a distance or at grazing angles. You already covered shadow distance. Soft particles, I only have on ultra just because I don't actually know how expensive it is, given that I'm always rendering a depth pass, but I tend to run with it on. This is a particle effects collision quality. You should, generally speaking, this should probably run fine up at 4, unless you have an incredibly anemic CPU. And then max pixel lights is, I believe this is set to 4 for like ultra, high, and medium, and only lower amounts on the really, really low settings. But it basically just relates to shading, and the sun is one of our pixel lights, muzzle flashes are a second, and there's only rare circumstances where there's more than that, but that's in there. Once again, this is something that only exists as an option because when I created Potato and Turbo Potato as options, I wanted to make sure I could turn everything down that could have an effect on performance, and so that's why these are there. But even if you're running at fairly low settings under custom, having these all set up to the max is probably going to serve you well. I wish I knew why the shadow resolution wasn't changing. That is so irritating. You will also notice that, like, me setting this up to 320 here looks distinctly different than running on Ultra. And this has to do with the fact that there's some background stuff related to what's called shadow cascades that I need to sort of automatically handle based upon what you have your distance set to. And I don't have that set up yet, but next week that will be working. So yeah, so hopefully, as I said, this will help. I know there's a number of folks who are like right on the cusp of being able to run with shadows, and honestly being able to run with like MSAA off, but like an 80 or a 160 shadow distance is probably tenable for those folks, because MSAA can be quite spendy when you're quite GPU bound. So hopefully that helps you folks. Anywho, let's jump over to the proving ground for a moment and take a look at another big change. So we are over in the proving ground, and I've got two changes to show you. The first is to our regenerative encryption for take and hold. I am still tweaking this, but as I mentioned last week, one of the things that I wanted to do with this is make it so that it didn't require verbal explanation for how it operates. But I still do like the fact that if you happen to juggle between sort of outside and inside hits, you get the benefit of the slower regeneration. And so what I've essentially done is I've nerfed the heck out of this sucker, so that the sort of standard way that you take it down, you can in fact essentially outshoot its regeneration, because if I take out two of these, it will only regenerate one of them at a time, and I have slowed down its base regeneration speed. Like so. So, you still have to be fast. It is still a challenge, and it's still one of those sorts of things where you should think about the order that you tackle it, and it will still slow down if I shoot the center. If I go like this, ammo! But it should definitely make it a little more tenable to take down with a lower rate of fire or lower capacity weapons, and just it solves the problem. There were a number of folks who never saw devlog, didn't know how this target worked, were good at the game, and just simply didn't know about shooting the center to slow it down, and in that case it's impossible to shoot them all fast enough, which is a design failure. So hopefully that fixes things while still retaining some of what makes it fun to fight as a target. And then the last thing to show you folks, I don't know, maybe grab a Mac 11 here, is some changes to SOSA guns. So I implemented 2 weeks ago sort of reloading these in the quick belt, because I wanted, instead of it to be about duplication, I wanted you to be able to reload SOSA guns. And while that was fun, it introduced so many balance problems. They're overpowered, especially relative to traditional guns. And so the problem was to go okay, how to fix this? How to make it so that without adding magazines or adding an extra thing you have to actuate on it, making these possible to reload, but you still have to interact with it to reload it, so that they're useful but not better than standard guns, and possibly also to do it along the lines that's sort of, well, goofy, the way SOSA guns are. Like, these are all made out of plastic. They're not real guns, they're hot dog guns. And so the solution that I've come across, and still working on it, still needs some tuning because there's 100 of these things, is to empty your gun, and then to reload it, shake it. The sound balancing is not right on that yet. The ding is too loud. The little case sounds are too quiet. I might have to record some new ones so it actually sounds like sort of bullets rattling around on the inside of a metal container. I might have to change it to the collision sounds of the bullets instead of the casings. But yeah, so the idea basically is that each of these will have it's empty. Pulling the trigger doesn't do anything. Shake it, fire again. Etc. And eventually, let me see, do I have an 8? Can I spawn the 870? Yeah, there we go. There'll be correct casing noises based on the ammo type. So if I empty this, There we go. Oh, not empty. So I have to tune the amount of time that you have to spend shaking them still. It's not strictly a time variable. It's like the number of sort of like jiggles the gun detects. And so I'm going to tune those so that they are correct relative to the amount of time it takes the SOSICs to reload them. So there is that sort of cross-system balance for them, because that's already something I'm tuning and trying to make better. But hopefully that's the goal, as I said, was to make it so that you can still do what a lot of folks enjoy with the SOSA guns. Let me grab this here. Which is to just have something that you can akimbo away with arcade play. Dink. While still not making the sort of standard guns meaningless. As I said, they reload a little too fast right now. Come on. Oh, they're reloaded. And you can only shake reload them when they are empty. So you can't do a partial reload, and that's one of the other things that I've done to try to balance them. So let me know what you think. As I said, that ding is way too loud. I may actually try to fix that before I push the build tonight. But yeah, still work in progress, but I think this works better than the prior system, which is you could have like 4 SOSA guns just in your quick belt at once, all just auto reloading for you, which was broken. So anywho, let's jump out of the... Oh, one last thing. Some of you are gonna be so happy. I just wanted to show you, I have finally, after this being on the known issues list for far too long, if we pull this out, put our red dot on, that's right, you can now finally grab the magnifiers that flip, and you can flip them. Eee, look at it go! Flipping action! Wonderful. Anywho, let's jump out of VR. Yo! So, hope you have fun with those. As I said, very work in progress. I know there's a bunch of like, oh, that sounds way too loud, but I'm going to keep working on those. Other stuff that is important in this update is that I fixed, I think finally, the sort of like proc gen generation in Taken Hold bug or behavior that relates to which secondary stations spawn along with the ammo reloading one in each take phase. I think it should now ensure that all of the other stations show up progressively. You won't necessarily get every one each hold, but you'll no longer go long periods of time playing on endless where you never see a recycler. So that should all be working finally as designed. Obviously, I've just got a bunch more work to do with those systems, but one other thing, I believe it should now be announced now that the devlog is out, but there is a big community Taken Hold tournament coming next month. I will let them explain it, but the website for it, I'll link in the description here, is First to Worst, and by being organized by Putter My Pancakes. Love those punny names. Yeah, and that's so there's it's one of the reasons I've been trying to get a few things sort of settled with Taken Hold so that it was ready for this tournament. But yeah, head on over there if you might be interested and want to participate. But otherwise, I'm gonna keep this segment of the devlog short today because I pretty much talked about everything. And yeah, hope next week I'll have some more refinements of the custom quality setting stuff and a few more tweaks for Taken Hold and possibly a new goodie. So I'll see you folks all then next week. Peace.